Welcome to Jakarta Content Week 2022. This event is organized by Yayasan 17.000 Pulau Imaji and Frankfurter Buchmesse. Today's session is the A to Z of Sales and Marketing Content License. This session is part of LeadBit, a program that specifically displays and discusses creative industry, trends, and various digital content that is currently hype in Indonesia and Southeast Asia, in the form of talk shows, discussions, lectures, chit-chat, and various other interesting formats. In LeadBit, content creators and experts in the creative industry will be present. I will introduce our moderator who will guide today's discussion, Ms. Sartika Dian Nuraini. Ms. Sartika Dian Nuraini is a writer, translator, poet, theater activist, and essayist. She holds a bachelor degree in English literature and has written volumes of poetry books and essays since 2010. Her cultural essays and voices have been published in national newspapers and magazines, both printed and online. She is the director of the Tangsel Literary Festival held annually in Tangerang Selatan, where she leads a community called the Indonesian Literary Collective. Please note that we provide door prizes for every first questioner in this session. And for Ms. Sartika Dian Nuraini, time is yours.
Hi. Good afternoon, everybody. Well, I'm Sartika Dian. People call me Dian. I'm a writer, translator, also works as international rights manager for Indonesian Associations of Publisher. Today's session, as you can see on all the banners that you have seen on many social media and website of JAK10, today's session is about the A to Z of Sales and Marketing Content License. We have here our speaker already, Mr. Sven Dietrich, Rights Director of Piper Verlag. Please welcome our speaker. Let me also, hi.
Hi, thank you.
Good afternoon. Selamat sore. How are you today?
I'm fine, thank you very much. Thank you for having me here. It's the first time that I'm in Indonesia, and it's a very friendly welcome from all of you. Thank you very much.
Okay. Let me also read a bit about this event. And the theme or topics that we are going to talk about. We're going to talk about how to sell the license of creative content to various countries. We need a detailed and precise strategy, right? Whether it's strategy to decide what kind of content fits to which country, or a strategy to ensure the sale will profit all stakeholders. Therefore, a publishing company has a specific profession that manages and sells copyrights. And this person specifically manages and sells copyrights held by each publishers. And in this session, we will have a discussion with Sven Dietrich, who works as a license sales on Piper Verlag, about everything we need to know to sell the license of a content. Yeah. And let me also read some knowledge about Sven Dietrich. Sven is in charge of license sales at Piper Verlag, part of the international media group Bonia. It's the largest group, no? The second largest group in Germany. As Piper's rights director, he is responsible for the sales of audiobook, film, stage and translation rights. He studied literature, mass communications, and philosophy in Bamberg and Columbia, South Carolina, as well as law at the Fernuniversität Hagen. Oder? Yeah. Please give a warm welcome and applause to the speaker today. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay. That's my opening toward this session, but I would like to actually talk a little bit about what is actually contents licensing, and we would like to know it a bit, and the basic knowledge of what is that actually. So I would like to give maybe 5 or 10 minutes to Sven to actually introduce us about what is rights licensing.
Okay, I will try to tell you about rights licensing. I've been in the rights business for more than 15 years now, and where the beginning of everything is, in my case, as an employee of a publisher, is the book. So there's an author who writes a book and who comes to the publisher and who gives the book to the publisher or to the editor, and we don't buy the book, we buy the content, and we buy all kind of rights in general. So we buy the right to publish the book in the German language, we buy the right to publish an e-book, and we buy all kind of other different rights. So for example, audiobook rights, film rights, stage rights, broadcasting rights in general, and all kind of other rights. So my job at Piper Verlag is to make use of these rights, because the author expects from us not only to, of course, in the first place, he expects that we publish the book, but he also expects like kind of a 360 degrees marketing and sales plan. So we try to bring him in all kind of formats. And since we as a publisher do not do all kind of media, so we are not film producer, we are not an audiobook publisher, we do not do translations ourselves. So my job is to find partners in the different industries, in different countries all over the world, to exploit these rights. So I have to look at the content, I have to define what content it is, and if it's suitable, for example, for an audiobook, if it's suitable for a film, or if it fits in the publishing program of a foreign publisher, European publisher, Asian publisher, North American publisher. And then I look into the contracts and I check if we have all these rights, and then I go out and try to sell it. So I have to think about the reasons why someone else is going to buy these rights, an audiobook publisher. So the content, of course, must be very good, but I also have to find the perfect partner for the content, for the book in my case. And then the journey starts with the content. We go out, for example, to book fairs like in Frankfurt or in London or in other countries of the world. And we meet there with, if we take the example of translation rights, we meet there with foreign publishers, editors, scouts, and we tell them about our books. And we try to convince them that this very book is also suitable for their markets, for their publishing program, and we try to sell it to them. So it's always kind of talking about content, talking about books, about the authors, of course, and to find the right partner in each and every country. And then when there's some interest from one publisher, or even better, from like 10 publishers, we can we can begin negotiating. If there are more publishers interested in it, we can of course have a kind of an auction and trying to sell the book at the highest price. But there of course sometimes are cases where we only have one publisher interested, so we are trying to find a good way and a good contract with them to make this book published in the very country. The reasons why we are doing this is, of course, the money. So revenue is being generated from foreign rights sales, from audiobook rights sales, from film rights sales, but it's also a service for the author. So most authors are really excited about seeing their book in different languages. So if you can arrange for them being published in English language, of course it's always kind of the highest goal, but also they enjoy it very much if they have a Korean translation of their book in their shelves, because we always get complimentary copies. It's an important part of the job, and so they are very happy about it. That's kind of the main reasons why we are doing it. The money, but also the joy of the author about the foreign editions.
Yeah, very nice. And how is your role being accepted or being very important, right, for the company, and your role in the development of creative contents?
Yeah, we work at PIPA, we work very closely with the editors. Of course, the main revenue stream in our publishing company comes from the books we sell in Germany. That's our main business model. But the rights sales department is also adding revenue to our general revenue stream. And so we are a small department, but we work with sub-agents in foreign countries. We, of course, try to know the foreign markets, but we also try to have a good network and to sell our content through this network. So we report to the CEO and the publisher of our company on a monthly basis, which deals we have closed. We, of course, show the foreign editions, the audiobook editions to the employees and other departments. So it's called the Foreign Rights Department or the Rights Sales Department in publishing houses. We are also closely associated with the contracts department in general. So there's, and that's the department where the contracts are made and the rights are bought. So we have to be in close contact with them to check if we have all these rights we are trying to sell.
Okay. I did talk with you about your role in the company, and I heard that you are only selling rights, right? Not scouting rights. Can you please also explain to people out there what is the difference between selling and scouting? Maybe some of you would like to also know about the different role in agency as well, and then in rights managing as well.
Yes, sure. In the publishing houses, they are the editors of the different topics like fiction and non-fiction, and they make the decisions on which books are being bought. And they also rely on expertise of people in foreign markets. So these in general, they are called scouts in general, so they scout a specific market. For example, we have a scout in the US who reports to the editors, these are the interesting books of the week which will come out next year, or we have talked to these editors and you got to have a look at this. And they kind of support our editors to pick the books they would like to buy. So that's the role of the scouts, to be in contact with all kind of editors and to know the markets and to recommend the books to other publishers. So this is an important network for the editors who buy the rights, who buy the content, but it's also being a very important network for us as rights sellers, because we have to give information to them about our important books. So they kind of recommend titles to other publishers, and we try to sell these titles. So this is why it's not a one-way street. But in general, my job is to decide which content I'm going to sell, and I'm only selling these rights, so I do not make decisions about buying rights. This would be with the editors and finally with the publisher.
And which one is more important for Piper Verlag? It is to acquire rights from foreign country or to sell?
Well, I have to be honest, it's to acquiring rights.
See, okay.
Maybe my publisher will see the video in the future, so I have to be honest, and the editors as well. Of course, it's also for me as a seller, it's important that they buy the right content so that I'm able to sell this content. And of course, when you buy England title, a book translated from English into German, I cannot sell the rights to other countries, because normally then the foreign rights are not with us. But in general, the German authors give the rights to us, the international rights, so that's when we can sell rights to other countries.
May I a little bit recap on Bahasa Indonesia for people who also speak only Bahasa Indonesia?
Sure,
Okay.
unfortunately I
Jadi,
cannot speak Indonesian, so I'm sorry about that.
Ya, teman-teman, tadi saya mungkin akan sedikit recap apa sih sebenarnya licensing rights dan kenapa ini penting sekali buat industri perbukuan dan mungkin film atau konten-konten yang lain, karena Piper Verlag itu satu penerbit yang juga punya banyak lini gitu ya, tidak hanya buku tapi juga film, dan tadi juga dijelaskan beberapa konten lain seperti itu. Nah, Sven ini adalah seorang direktur untuk sales dan marketing rights di Piper Verlag ini gitu. Jadi misal ada satu penulis, dua penulis yang bukunya diterbitkan oleh salah satu penerbit di Jerman, atau dalam konteks ini Piper Verlag, itu kan IP-nya itu dimiliki atau copyright-nya itu dimiliki sama penerbit kan gitu. Jadi penerbit ini memiliki dalam tanda kutip hak, wewenang, kuasa untuk juga memperdagangkan hak terjemahan dari buku ini gitu. Jadi Sven ini bekerja untuk mempromosikan atau menjual, tujuannya adalah menjual rights yang dimiliki oleh penerbit ini ke penerbit luar negeri gitu. Jadi di sini Sven juga sudah membawakan sebuah katalog dari penerbitnya yaitu Piper Verlag. Ada beberapa buku yang memang best selling, jadi dia pilih setiap 6 bulan sekali untuk diperdagangkan seperti itu. Misalkan dia pergi ke Frankfurt Book Fair tadi dia katakan, terus dia pergi juga ke London Book Fair seperti itu untuk bertemu dengan penerbit-penerbit lain yang mau mengakuisisi hak terjemahannya ke bahasa masing-masing. Dan tadi ada catatan penting, jika sudah diakuisisi di sebuah negara yang misalkan di Indonesia, akuisisinya oleh misalkan katakanlah Gramedia Pustaka Utama, dan dia sudah tidak bisa lagi dibeli oleh penerbit di Indonesia gitu. Jadi hak terjemahan per bahasa, bukan hak terjemahan per negara seperti itu. Jadi availability dari sebuah rights sih kalau ke luar negeri atau yang akan diterjemahkan ke luar negeri itu hanya negara-negara yang berbeda bahasanya seperti itu. Jadi misalkan bahasa Inggris kan ada nih, ada Australia, terus ada Inggris, ada Amerika. Nah itu kalau sudah ada penerbit berbahasa Inggris, berarti hak cipta bahasa Inggrisnya dimiliki oleh itu. Nah tadi juga ada catatan penting dari Sven bahwa dia itu juga tidak hanya menjual aja gitu, tapi bagaimana menemukan partner yang sebanding sama penerbitnya dia seperti itu. Seperti Piper Verlag kan sudah grup besar, nah dia juga harus menemukan partner dari negara-negara lain yang sebanding penerbitannya gitu. Jadi dia harus mencari tahu dulu siapa yang akan diajak ketemu seperti itu untuk matchmaking, biasanya seperti itu. Jadi kalau dia pergi ke Frankfurt Book Fair biasanya, atau dia pergi ke London Book Fair, dia biasanya riset dulu dan membuat janji itu tidak tiba-tiba atau serta-merta. Dia akan membuat janji 6 bulan sebelumnya untuk bertemu di 6 bulan berikutnya itu tadi gitu. Jadi ketika bertemu udah deal gitu aja. Nah itu mungkin, tapi tadi ada beberapa catatan penting bahwa dari Sven sendiri, dia adalah seorang yang fokusnya ke seller. Jadi untuk mempromosikan aja, tapi ada yang scouting. Scouting itu yang membawa judul-judul ke penerbit di Piper Verlag ini. Dan waktu aku tanya, kalau untuk Piper Verlag itu yang terpenting scouting atau selling gitu. Tadi yang menarik adalah, to be honest, dia bilang Piper Verlag kebanyakan acquire gitu. Jadi yang lebih penting itu membeli gitu. Jadi masih banyak lagi potensi untuk buku-buku dari negara lain untuk masuk ke Jerman melalui Piper Verlag. Oke.
That sounded a lot more professional than what I had said.
Let me jump to the next question. We are quite curious about your interest in selling rights. What brought you to be a rights seller? I mean, rights director for the company. Maybe you can tell me a bit about your history, or because I know that you are philosophy graduate, so please tell me what's your end game and what's your main reason to hold this position.
Okay, yes, I will try. Of course, in the beginning, there's always reading and interest for books. That's why I also studied literature, philosophy, and communications. And during my studies, I also developed quite an interest in law, which was first sparkled by Franz Kafka, indeed, he was also kind of a lawyer. And after my studies of literature, I also studied law at the Fernuniversität Hagen. And so this kind of was a combination between the interest in literature and text and talking about text, and also negotiating the contracts and understanding the law of selling content and intellectual property. So this combination was maybe guided me to the position I now have. I started like a lot of people in Germany with an internship in a publishing house, and began assisting a rights director at that time, and we were doing kind of the same business as today. Of course, we have other tools today, but the main thing is talking about good books and talking about good content and trying to connect all people of different businesses, of different industries, to make something from good books and good content. And so that's what led me to being in the rights business for more than 15 years by now, because there are always new books. There are all kind of customers that become friends during the time. So I'm working with audiobook publishers who are a lot different from film producers. I'm working with publishers from Russia to the US, from China to Australia. So you have all kind of different contacts over the world, and yeah, well, this is one of the most fascinating aspects of my work. I've never been to Indonesia, so I hope to making more contacts here, and I hope that I can bring some of our good books to your lovely country too.
Well, enjoy your stay.
Thank you.
And I'm also curious, maybe people here, the audience also curious about the strategy of selling rights. I mean like selling books, come on, nowadays. What are the challenges for you from like for the past 15 years? Oh, come on, 15 years or more. Can you tell me a bit your secret of selling rights?
Yeah, well, the secret is first to find someone who reads German in other countries, which is sometimes very difficult. That's one reason why our biggest partners are in Europe. So we have strong relationships with countries like the Netherlands, like France, like Italy. We also try to sell a lot to the US and the UK, which is more difficult because there's less interest in German authors. I think in general, all over the world, it's kind of a one-way route. There are a lot of English, American and British authors being translated into local languages like German or Asian languages, but there are not as many German authors being translated into English. So it's kind of difficult to have to tell a secret. You have to know the markets, and we have sub-agents that support us in knowing the markets. We also commission sample translations into English of our books, so that someone who does not read German can have a first impression. And then we try to connect with various people in different countries. And of course, there are some books that will not sell in a specific country. So for the Asian countries in general, it's easier to sell non-fiction books, while in other countries you could sell both, more commercial fiction. So it's part of the market, but it's also the most important thing is a good story. In fiction or in non-fiction, at the end the foreign rights salespeople can bring us a spark of the fire to the publisher, but then the book has to there has to be some inspiration, and the book has to talk for itself.
Okay, let me recap then. Jadi Sven tadi bilang bahwa interest dia dalam selling rights itu sebenarnya dimulai karena memang dia ada background di sastra atau literature, terus kemudian dia sekolah lagi filosofi degree juga, terus kemudian nyambung ke hukum gitu. Jadi mungkin dua background inilah yang membuat Sven kemudian bisa memiliki posisi seperti sekarang ini, karena seorang rights manager itu juga harus, atau seorang yang bekerja di licensing itu harus memiliki pengetahuan tentang legalnya kayak gitu. Jadi sistem hukumnya seperti apa di rights itu sendiri kayak gitu. Nah, terus juga untuk tadi aku tanyain sedikit, selama 15 tahun bekerja sebagai penjual rights keluar, sebenarnya apa sih secretnya untuk bisa menjual kayak gitu. Terus dia bilang bahwa sebenarnya ketika dijalanin itu sebenarnya kita tidak punya secret gitu ya, atau tidak ada spesifikasi seperti apa, tapi yang paling penting ternyata ketika dia pelajari sistemnya selama ini adalah good story. Jadi sepanjang story-nya itu bagus, jadi pembaca itu tidak bisa dibohongi sih gitu, menurut dia seperti itu. Jadi bukan susuk atau apa gitu ya teman-teman. Jadi bukan karena magic gitu ya. Tapi adalah karena good quality of writer juga mungkin ya yang bisa membuat atau membuktikan bahwa buku itu bisa terjual dengan cepat atau dengan baik gitu. Selain juga kita harus push through dan karena menurut Sven mencari orang yang bisa berbahasa Jerman itu kan effort juga ya. Jadi dia bukan bahasa Inggris juga gitu ya. Makanya dia juga mungkin sama rights seller dari Indonesia yang berjuang mencari orang yang bisa berbahasa Indonesia di luar negeri gitu. Jadi mungkin seperti itu. Sven, would you please also drink something if you want to? Okay.
Thank you, thank you.
Kita masih ada beberapa menit ya, kita ada 15 menit lagi untuk sesi ini. Saya mungkin akan go with satu pertanyaan lagi untuk Sven, dan kemudian saya akan mengundang teman-teman untuk bisa bertanya dalam bahasa Indonesia maupun bahasa Inggris, terserah. Terus nanti kita mulai sesi tanya jawab setelah mungkin 10 menit. So we have 4 minutes to go before we jump to the next session. It's a Q&A by the audience to you directly. My last question, Sven, what are the do's and don'ts in the process of selling rights?
Well, the do's are that you know your content and that you can talk about it, and that's the first thing. Then you should know like all salespeople should know the buyer or the editor in this case, and you should know the program of the publisher, because usually on a book fair you have like 20 minutes to talk about books to one publisher or one editor. So you have to be prepared, you have to know the program. You only can sell content to them that he generally publishes, so you cannot sell poetry to a non-fiction publisher. So you got to know the content, you got to know the publisher, and then the don't is that you do not try to sell too many books in 20 minutes. So often it's a lot better to focus on 1 or 2 titles, so your strongest project, because publishers and editors are looking at so many books and they are really happy if they only have to decide on one, or if they only have to look at one book. And if that's the book that fits, then you have a goal. Yeah.
Very nice. Nggak kayak saya ya. Iya. Nanti kita akan coba tanya-tanya lagi pengalaman personal dia, apakah punya trauma atau seperti saya awal-awal, ini ternyata penerbit apa, saya jualan apa gitu ya. Oke, teman-teman ada 10 menit untuk teman-teman bisa tanya langsung. Jadi silahkan bisa 3 question saya buka dari sekarang. Bisa angkat tangan mungkin. Okay, Claudia, are you asking something? Okay.
So I'm sorry I wasn't here from the beginning, so forgive me if I'm asking something that you've already discussed. I have 2 questions. One is, you're also selling rights to audiobooks in Germany, right? Or maybe also to other countries. I would like to know a little bit about that. And my second question is, I think you said that it's difficult to sell rights to the US and the UK, and English-speaking rights markets, for German publications. And I also hear that it's very difficult to sell Indonesian rights to German publishers. I know you are selling rights, you're not buying rights, I understand that. But in general, I would like to know from you or your personal perspective on what we can do about that. You know, like for instance also with China. China buys a lot of rights from Germany. It's the most important country for rights buying, but we hardly buy anything. So, does that work at the end of the day? So 2 questions, thank you.
Yes, I will start with the audiobook market question. We mainly sell audiobook rights for a German language rights, so there's quite a big audiobook market in Germany. Its sales increased over the last years. It's a really important business in Germany. Mainly it is unabridged readings. So formerly as CDs and nowadays as download or streaming versions. And so it's kind of the same business. We sell the content to an audiobook publisher. They pay in advance, they pay royalties, they choose a reader, they pay the production costs, they bring the audiobook onto the different platforms like Audible, Spotify, BookBeat in Germany, and then there's a yearly statement where they account for the sales that they did in the year. So this is a very important market for us. It's also big in Scandinavian countries where sometimes the audiobook sales are higher than the book sales. So like in countries like Denmark or Sweden, there's often, it's like more than 50% of the sales are audiobook sales and not book sales anymore. And there are other countries that are developing very quickly in audiobook terms. So this is an important market for us, and since we do not produce audiobooks ourselves, it's my job to sell licenses to audiobook publishers in Germany. The second question is a little bit more difficult to answer. So for Indonesian literature, I think you will not find an editor in Germany who is fluent in Indonesian. So you should, as a publisher in Indonesia, you should pick the best book you have or the book you think that would travel to Germany or to other countries, and you should commission a good English language translation. And that might be, that is expensive, but that might be a good start for you to have foreign publishers paying attention to your publishing house, to your novel, to your non-fiction book, and that would be a good start. The second thing maybe is to convince a German or a US agent to pick the book from your list and to sell it for you. That's what we try sometimes with German authors as well, that we have someone who has a good standing in publishing in the country, like a US agent for US publishers. This might be a way. And well, for China, it is quite a big market for German literature, or more for children's literature. But I couldn't give you any good answers for Indonesian titles to bring over there. It always is difficult when the publishers and the editors in the very country do not speak your language. So if there are no German readers, and that's our problem in the US, then it's hard to find someone who picks a book by just looking at the description. There's no trust in, they want to read the whole book. But I think it will take some time, even with Indonesian-German publishing relations. It just will take some time, and there needs to be more understanding. And in Germany, there were some Korean authors being translated into German in the last years, and from other foreign countries as well. But of course, we are probably too much Western oriented, so we got to change that with your help. Thank you.
Yeah, very interesting. Ada lagi pertanyaan? Karena waktunya mendesak, saya tidak terjemahkan, nggak apa-apa ya. Silakan, saya tanya jawab yang kedua mungkin dari teman-teman yang lain yang penasaran soal rights licensing, sorry. Okay, Claudia again.
I would like to know, do you use a lot of online platforms to sell rights? Like, for instance, there is the Frankfurt Rights platform, and there are others as well. PubMed, well, that's more for American titles, but is that something that works for you?
No, I have to say that it does not work for me, because I think it does not work for the buyer, for the editor. But that's my personal opinion. I know that there are other opinions. From my experience, the biggest problem is to have the editor look at your project, and just to bring it to some kind of online platform, I don't know. I'm not convinced that the editors have the time to look through all the titles there. And from my experience, it's more important to connect with the people through Zoom or Teams or in personal contact on the book fairs, because I think they don't have the time to scroll through catalogs. But this might be different for science publishers, for children's publishers, and for more specific content and backlist titles. So I think there it could be a useful tool. But the normal editor, I think, is overwhelmed by the information of these platforms.
Okay, maybe, yeah, we still have 5 minutes to go. So we're approaching our end session. But last question. What is the best-selling title? I mean, which one do you have from Pipa Verlag, which is sold really fast from your publishing house, respective publishing house?
Well, and we have a novel which is called in German Der Buchspazierer. Sounds very strange, and it's not a very common word. It may be translated into the book walker or books to go on, and it's a story about an elderly bookseller who delivers books to his customers and who picks books, and he makes, well, he's kind of going to retire, and he makes friends with a young girl who changes his life and who also changes the lives of his customers. So it's a book about change, about friendship, and it's a book about books and the impact of books. So we have sold more than 250,000 copies in Germany. We have sold rights to more than 25 countries, and it's going to be published in the US in 2023. And Indonesian rights are available.
Promosi sekalian ya untuk penerbit di Indonesia yang mau akuisisi dia Buch Spazier. Itu artinya buku untuk pejalan katanya. Jadi bukunya masih available untuk Indonesian publisher, silahkan dihubungin aja nanti minta kontaknya ke saya juga nggak apa-apa kalau ada publishing house di sini. Oke, ya terima kasih banyak teman-teman sudah memperhatikan diskusi ini dari awal sampai akhir. I thank you so much Sven Dietrich for the participation and your answers and your important remarks on selling rights. Enjoy your stay again in Indonesia. I hope you like Jakarta.
Thank you very much, Dian.
Yeah,
I really enjoy it.
Oke, teman-teman, ini adalah sesi akhir dari acara A to Z of Sales and Marketing Content License. On behalf of Jakarta Content Week 2022, I would like to thank you for your participation in the LeadBit program session, the A to Z of Sales and Marketing Content License. We still have many other interesting sessions in JAC10 2022. You can access all JAC10 2022 sessions on the JAC10 website .id. I mean JAC10.id or .com. Oh, keep up with our social media too at JAC10, JAKTENT in your Instagram for the latest information about JAC10 2022. Stay healthy and see you soon. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.